Long days and pleasant nights, fellow travelers along the path of the beam. I am known in this realm as Jaime and Fuego, and if it please you, join me here on The Horror Show for another installment of Hail to Stephen King. Damn Rizzo, guys, the show that is now, going forward, going to be twice a week, Tuesdays and Saturdays. With the new year hitting, we had just like a little bit of a hiccup there initially. I think we ended up putting the Saturday episode up on Friday, but that is totally inconsequential. We are going to be going twice a week, Tuesdays and Saturdays onward with this particular program. We're going to be getting some more viewer interaction, which is going to be fun. Gracias so much to everybody who tuned in to just my 2017 year in review, the video that was entitled Return of the King, and that's because 2017 was so amazing for Cy King, my favorite author. And yeah, as you guys can see, I just got my newest little bit of King, and the one thing that I think, at least at this point, I needed, besides some of like the super special editions of sorts to complete the collection, Hearts in Suspension is something, it's very different. It republishes the Hearts in Atlantis novella. It also has a new foreword by King. It has some written stuff from some of his classmates back when he was in college during the Vietnam War and all that craziness, so perhaps I can make a video out of that. But today, as we are in the midst of this torrential, just cold insanity that is rocking King's area of the country, although I'm sure the dude is in Florida right now, and yet Florida got some snow, which was just crazy. We're in the midst right now in the United States, one of like the coldest winters in recent memory, if not like it's in the rankings forever. And so, yeah, I'm very happy to be chilling in the Arizona desert and having highs in the 70s, you know, during the daytime. But Cy King is my favorite author, as I mentioned. You can see by this book collection, which you are now going to be seeing in its entirety, as opposed to the close-up shot that I did for most of the, you know, just first season or year, I guess, of Hail to Stephen King. But the subject that I have come up with today, it's going to be a fun one, because it's basically, we're going to talk about the coldest King stories. Yes, that's right. And it's very just timely, appropriate of sorts with, you know, the nasty winter that so many people are unfortunately experiencing, and that we are not in Arizona, which we are blessed with, you know, nice winters, but the most horrendously just hellacious summers of heat and stuff like that. So I wanted to talk about the King stories where either weather plays a factor or they just take place in the cold, all of that craziness. The one that we have to start out with, obviously, right there, The Shining, guys. And The Shining is a story that there's so much of a significance for the chill factor because of the entrapment aspect. The fact that, I mean, this was a story that was made iconic by Kubrick, obviously, but I still prefer the book, and in some ways I do like the miniseries better, but in storytelling and in performance, not so much in the production value, which is very, very TV mid-90s of sorts. But, I mean, what gets colder and crazier than somebody who has inner demons that they are facing, and they're just stowed away in this hotel, the Overlook, where, you know, the Torrance family is, and Jack basically slowly going crazier and crazier, and no, you know, no TV and no beer makes Jack Torrance go something. That's paraphrasing Simpsons style, obviously, but, you know, that's a story that really initially showed the chilling factor. And you know, King was essentially a living and reliving personal experience from a time when he was in Colorado with his family himself. He was battling those similar demons at the time. And so, I mean, if I'm going to count down the best cold stories from King, as far as just that weathering, chilling factor being so prevalent and prominent, yeah, it's most definitely The Shining. It's iconic for a reason, guys, you know? The Dead Zone is another one in King's early catalog, and you know, bibliography that I have to mention, because of the fact that, you know, when you're thinking about, you know, everything that Walken's character, you know, went through, and just the initial, goodness, man, I mean, you know, he tries to save his brother from drowning in just these chilling waters and stuff, and it messes with him, and then you in turn end up in a coma for, you know, just a massive amount of time after he grows older and stuff like that. I mean, goodness Lord, it's an amazing story, and with good reason. And I mentioned Walken because of the fact that Cronenberg's film it captured that chilling, ongoing tone just oh so very well, and I don't know what to say beyond that because of the fact that it's one of the most iconic opening and backstories for a particular character, and so yeah, it takes its place in prominence for a very, very good reason. Another chilling King tale, and it's one that I just talked about recently because of the fact that it saw its anniversary. Man alive, is Misery, and all of the Sheldon stuff just not chilling as hell. The fact that, this crazy writer, Mr. Paul Sheldon, is driving in, he's in Colorado, and there's a initial little, connection with mentioning the Overlook at one particular point. He's in Colorado, he's about to drive to LA after, popping his champagne, finishing his book, all this other stuff, but yeah, Annie Wilkes, god damn, what a crazy villain to find yourself snowed in with and at the mercy of, I mean, I know this book doesn't completely take place during that particular season. It goes into the spring and everything before he, finally tries to make his escape and stuff and, turn the tables, so to speak. But, I mean, holy smokes, what is a more frightening scenario to find yourself in than somebody who is so obsessive about you, who just will not let it go, and you are at their mercy. I love Misery, and some people may say it's the most chilling Stephen King story ever told. It's debatable, but, another one that I'm going to go into right now, and this is not, I mean, you guys, if you've seen the video that I did where I'm talking about my least favorite Stephen King stories, this is in my top 2 least favorite. It's Dreamcatcher. Now, Dreamcatcher was unfortunately adapted very poorly by Lawrence Kasdan, but, I still felt like the cast was there, the performances were okay, even though Morgan Freeman was very over the top in it, but the book I still find appreciation in the aspect of this crazy invasion scenario and the chilling cold that our main characters find themselves in the midst of, and that's why I'm talking about it here. Just finding somebody just sitting out in the middle of nowhere in snow, in this torrential, crazy cold, and, just like stuck there. And that one of our characters encounters this guy, and he's the one who was brought back to the cabin, and just at least starts the stuff where, oh, poor Beaver. Yeah, it's sad. But, Dreamcatcher is one that it's not very good. King was on that recovery mode at the time, and so I kind of questioned some of his stuff, but the Kurtz connections and everything, with regards to that, it's not a bad book. It's just my least favorite King book, but it's a chilling King book in the setting and the scenario that we find these characters thrown into. So if you guys are familiar with it, you definitely know. I always got to mention the Tower 7. Dark Tower 7, in the back half of the book, when it's just down to Susanna and Oi and Roland, and they, all the stuff has gone down at Thunderclap, and, characters are dead, and all this other stuff, and it's supremely sad. But when they're trudging through the snow as they are trying to get through the last bit of End World, and they're so close to the tower at that particular point, you feel just the chilling, just hopelessness, I guess. I mean, that's a part of the book that for me really drags in some aspects, and so maybe that's purposeful though, perhaps. It just feels as chillingly boring and sad and just despondently without hope as you would assume the characters are kind of feeling at the time, especially after, going through the under area of the Crimson King's palace and everything, and so it's and then they have that encounter with Dandelo. Man, I'm probably misrecalling his name, but yeah, guys, it's one of the most chilling points in a Stephen King book for the sheer fact that the hopelessness of winter, and I always think of a Pearl Jam song, where Eddie Vedder is like, no matter how cold the winter, there's a springtime ahead, and so that's a line that sticks with me, and it's a part from the Dark Tower 7, the final book in the circle, that sticks with me. Another Dark Tower reference that I just have to briefly mention is the fact that I think of the Stark Blast also as one of the coldest moments, and that is in Dark Tower 4.5, you know, so it was like the weird little in-between story. I like the Wind Through the Keyhole so much more than maybe just 6 and 7. I really like Wolves of the Calling, even if I don't like the way it ended. But, you know, when Arcatet is just hidden away in this house and the crazy storm is coming over them, it's not like snow or anything, but obviously it's like a cold, like thunderstorm, you know, of rainy insanity and stuff. And so, yeah, that's it's a good point in the entire Dark Tower saga, and it's also very poignant for just, once again, that cold, just, you know, you don't have control. You are at the mercy of weather and, you know, the just forces of nature. And so, yeah, I adore that particular story aspect and the, I guess, analogy and metaphor of it. And yeah, if you guys have not read the Dark Tower 4.5 Went Through the Keyhole, at least up until this point, the only Dark Tower pseudo-sequel-y fill-in, you know, other tidbits that we've received since the saga was completed proper. If we're jumping forward, I gotta also mention Mr. Mercedes. Now, Mr. Mercedes was an interesting trilogy, which obviously encompassed, you know, End of Watch, the third one, which I was so-so about. And then we have, that's right, Finders Keepers, which I loved Finders Keepers, and didn't really continue the Brady story, obviously. I mean, there's a brief little reference and stuff, but there is a framing aspect amongst all three of those stories, and that is when, in the bitter of cold, people are waiting out in line at this job fair, and that's where, you know, he goes and mows down all of these people, and just the chilling aspect of all of these people getting, you know, just pulverized by a vehicle is terrible. But the fact that they were out there just freezing their asses off, trying to better their lives at, once again, the mercy of not just weather in this scenario, but financial circumstances and economic aspects and things like that. I love the Mr. Mercedes trilogy. I had very mixed feelings in a lot of ways about Sleeping Beauties, as you guys know that I've mentioned on this program before, but I think it's a very cool framing device that they continue to come back to in all three of the Bill Hodges books, in the fact that it showed different perspectives, you know, from that initial attack and the craziness that associated with it, and all of the repercussive aspects that just kind of splintered off. So, man, it's chilling. It really, really, truly is. And then another one, and this is actually going to be one of the few where we're branching off because of the fact that it was not a book. There was something that Stephen King wrote specifically for the screen in the 90s, and it was called Storm of the Century. And Storm of the Century, I think, is so insanely underrated, and it's one that I kind of want to do just a full-on review of, for the sheer fact that when I saw it as a kid, I was just like, this is boring, it's all this talking, there's not really any craziness transpiring. But rewatching it a few years ago when I purchased it, or repurchased it, I should say, because I used to have it on VHS, but when I got the DVD and I sat down in the context of King and tried to grasp the bunker mentality of all of these people that are stowed away as this insane storm's raging outside of them in Maine, and the way they're turned against each other, the way we see the aspect of human nature really just being self-serving in so many aspects. I mean, damn. Storm of the Century is so fascinating because of the character study that it becomes, and oh man, one of the greatest villains. You know, he's probably, and his name is eluding me unfortunately, but the pseudo-devil of sorts that we have in Storm of the Century, he probably should have been on my top 10 Stephen King villain countdown, because that dude just brought it. The ending is heartbreaking. It's amazing. If you guys haven't seen Storm of the Century, it's, you know, once again, it's something that will, you know, it will chill your heart. It's nuts. So the last few are, they're shorter versions of King's storytelling that I feel like have to be mentioned here. Definitely One for the Road. And One for the Road is the pseudo-sequel to Salem's Lot, but it's not really. It's just like a little bit, and it's almost like an epilogue of sorts, you know? Yeah, and it just serves very well as just a little bit of postscript about what happened with, you know, the lot after there was pretty much nobody else living there anymore. And so, yeah, if you guys can find it on YouTube or Vimeo or something, it was amazingly adapted, as I mentioned, and I just love vampires and cold. I mean, you know, that 30 Days of Night being another amazing one that deals with those weatherly aspects and whatnot. Another short that we have to mention is Nona, and Nona is one where it ties in with the Castle Rock universe of sorts, where, you know, there's some Ace Merrill references in this, and there's a guy who is driving, you know, lonely road and all this other stuff, snowing, supremely cold, picks up a hitchhiker girl, she's kind of nuts, they end up in a mausoleum. It's very, very creepy and well done, and you know that there's something very nasty and bad about this woman that he is smitten with. I Am the Doorway is another one that I have to at least make brief mention of. That is just like One for the Road. It is from Night Shift, which was Stephen King's first collection of short stories. And I Am the Doorway, it's cold for the aspect that you're up in space, you know, and the guy is orbiting Venus, if I remember correctly, and there's some sort of like spore or just alien DNA presence that just kind of takes itself into him, and he starts transforming. He's like getting eyeballs on his hands and all this other stuff. It actually inspired a short story that I wrote many years ago called Marked, which I stole from the Bad Religion song from Stranger Than Fiction. But nonetheless, I'm the Doorway is a very interesting just look at cold, scary science fiction, and I love when King ventures into the sci-fi realm, unless it's Dreamcatcher. Another one that we got to talk about is The Night Flyer. The Night Flyer, about a tabloid journalist who is just chasing a story, but also chasing a vampire of sorts. Miguel Ferrer did an amazing job. Rest peacefully to that gentleman, and you know, all of the amazing work that he did. It was wonderfully put in. I want to say it's Nightmares and Dreamscapes, but I would have to double check. It's a very good one, and you know, he's chasing through storms and through all this. Just, it's not snowy or anything. You know, we're talking more so like just rainstorm craziness, whatever. But he's an imperfect character. He's flawed, but fascinating, and yeah, very cool. Just dark villain of the vampiric variety that he is after. You know, 1922 is going to be my second to last mention here. Beautifully adapted. Recently on Netflix, Thomas Jane embodies just the tortured aspect of this character who kills his wife and then tries his damnedest after his son leaves to make it through a very tough winter. That he's living with the cow inside his house, you know. But damn, was it so wonderfully adapted. And the story is unsettling. It's got some big Lovecraft aspects, you know, harkening back to the Jerusalem's Lot stuff, which was a prequel story that King did that served as a precursor to Salem's Lot, about just hearing the rats in the wall and the growing paranoia of all of that. So awesome. 1922, it's another story that will freeze just your soul in the dark. Just, I mean, guys, remember, there are different layers to hell in you know, in Dante's story, and I always think of when he got to the lowest levels, and you would think, oh, hell is burning, it's, you know, breaming, it's, you know, it's fiery, whatever. No, sometimes it's almost like Doc Brown, where it's like, you know, it's so cold that you burn yourself based on the cold when he's trying to touch the handle of the DeLorean. So now, what is the final mention? What is the short story? And it might be my favorite and one of the most cathartic King short stories that he has ever done, as far as just chilling and unsettling and yet beautiful and poignant in the same right. And we're talking The Reach. Now, The Reach is about an old woman who has lived on a single island for her entire life, you know, and this happens in New England a lot, from what King was saying in certain interviews and stuff that I've read, and it's considered one of his most gothic and most beautiful short stories, and with good reason. I think it's in Skeleton Crew, if I'm not mistaken. But man, the Reach is about this old woman who has never left her island to go to the mainland. She always had everybody bring things to her. She never had any reason to leave, and yet she's pretty much at the death throes, and she knows that her existence is winding down, and she is staring down death. And what does she decide to do but walk over the frozen reach to the mainland for the first time in her entire life? So the water has frozen over enough that people don't have to take a ferry or whatever, they can just walk right across it. And she decides now is the time, because she is staring down the end of her existence. And as she's walking across, guys, she sees her husband, she sees old friends, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful in that sad, cathartic sort of way, and that's why it might be, it's in the running in my top 10 favorite Stephen King short stories, I think. It's gotta be there because of the fact that it warms your heart while freezing and saddening it at the same time. So it's crazy good, and it will definitely leave its imprint on you. Just like a cold as hell winter will leave its impression on you. If you're in one of those areas of the world where you're freezing your butt off right now, I sympathize, but I'm glad that I'm not there with you. There's nothing negative about that. I'm not being patronizing. I'm just saying, hey, I sweat out 120 degrees Fahrenheit for a reason, guys. And I can't contend with the cold. But I love a good, chilling story, especially when it comes from Cy King. So I can extend a grande gracias to everybody tuning into this program, and just implore you to please comment below with your thoughts about chilling Stephen King stories or any sort of thing that you would like to see us cover on this program in the coming year in 2018 with 2 times a week. I'm trying to stack as many ideas as possible, but I need interesting comments, I need suggestions, and yeah, I need the help of all of you fellow CRs, you fellow constant readers, to just elevate this program. You've been so supportive and so awesome, and it's warmed my cold dead heart. So you can find me, Jaime Fuego, on all social media sectors, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube as well. Yep, I'm on there also. And yeah, I look forward to talking more Cy King with all of you in the coming year. So until the Wheel of Ka rolls around once more, I've been Fuego, you have been amazing, and until next time, amigos, stay scared and read Stephen King. He'll actually warm your heart.